I get complimented of the way that I look, that my body looks. In fact, I feel better now or as good as when I was a teenager. So, in my between 16 and 19 years old.
At the start of our work together, Rusty weighed in at 190 pounds. Now, completing our work, he is down to 154 pounds, making a 35-pound weight loss. He's 55 years young and absolutely knocked it out of the water. Today, he is sharing his story with us.
When I got married, I was in a size 31 pant as an adult. And it just ballooned from there. So every year it was a weight, maybe a pound or maybe 2 pounds, maybe 3 pounds, whatever it was. And by the time I hit about 40, I had went from a size 31 pant to a 38 pant. So went up 7 sizes, and you don't ever recognize that that's what's happening. You just feel like, okay, I'm getting older and this is the way life goes. And so I just kind of lived with that. And when I was about 50 years old, I'm 55 now. When I was 50 years old, I had my oldest brother come and stay with us for a time. And it really opened my eyes. Some of my family suffers from being overweight, and my mother became a diabetic. She ended up with type 2 diabetes, and she actually went on dialysis. She was obese, and she went on dialysis where she had to go 3 times a week and ended up taking her life. And I remember that, and I remember conversations with my dad. My dad's quite thin, and we'd have these conversations where he would say, boy, if your mom would have just done some things differently. But I never knew what those different things were. You think it's medication or you think it's exercise. I mean, that was one of the topics that always came up, was exercise. And so anyway, back to my brother. He's overweight, and he's type 2 diabetic, and he's now on insulin, and he's much like my mother. And the room that he was staying in was really, really close to the bathroom. I mean, within steps. And I would hear him at night get up, and he'd get to the doorway of the bedroom, not even to the bathroom, and you could just hear how out of breath he was. He'd take a couple of steps, and it was almost like he couldn't. I thought he was going to die. I mean, I was like, you were so out of breath, and I talked to him about that. But it really had an impact on me, to the point that I was like, okay, I've got to do something. I've got grandkids, I've got my kids, and I want to be able to do things. I don't want to be like my brother right now, where I'm walking to the bathroom and I'm out of breath just taking 5 steps to the bathroom. And so I thought, okay, something's got to give, something's got to change. So then I started saying, okay, well, the first thing that came to my mind was exercise. So I started to exercise. This is when I started to get into running. And I would start, I'd run around the block, and I would run. And then I got to the point that I could run a half a mile and then a mile, and it went up from there. But what I noticed, and it really didn't have an impact at the time, but yeah, I would lose a little weight. I was getting stronger, but weight was coming off like I thought it should. The other thing that occurred to me during this early time was I serviced dealerships, and I would have to walk their lots a lot. And so by the end of the day, I would walk 5, 6, 7, 8 miles a day, just walking at my job. No weight loss. I was like, I had my iWatch, and I was looking at it going, God, something's just not making any sense here, because I'm exercising. Not only am I walking 8 miles a day, I'm running a couple of miles a day. I'm running 3 miles a day, whatever it was. And I'm just not losing like I thought. So I thought, okay, it must be some of the things that I eat. And sure enough, when I started to watch, really think about what I ate, I would go to, so I knew exactly where when I'd go to the dealerships, where the Wendy's was. I knew where Taco Bell was. I knew where Subway was. And I knew, I mean, so there was some certain, fast foods because I'm on the go all the time. And so I knew where these places were. And boy, the minute I went to that place, once hunger hit me, I was right over to that place and I was getting what I thought was healthy. I'd get that chicken. It was a spicy chicken sandwich. I haven't had it for so long that I kind of forgot what they are, but and I would get, sometimes I would get French fries because they were potatoes, and I cut out my soda. I thought, okay, I've got to cut out my soda. So I cut out soda, and I love soda. In fact, I would go to Maverick, the gas station, every morning. And I would go there and I would grab my soda, Mountain Dew. I'd grab my Mountain Dew. I'd grab my maybe some type of burrito, breakfast burrito, or sausage McMuffin or whatever it was, and a Kit Kat bar. Loved it. And that's what I'd have in the morning. And then in the afternoon, I'd hit my Wendy's or Taco Bell or Subway or whatever was there. And of course, that didn't change anything. And so then I thought, okay, I've got to watch this. I've got to cut some of these things out. So then I kind of went to the paleo side of things, or the high protein, low carb, and I started to cut out some of the processed foods. And I started to lose weight. And I thought, okay, this is good. But things just didn't make sense. I think I started out, by the way, at this point, I was 202 pounds, and I think I lost like 10 pounds, 10, maybe 15 pounds, 10, 15 pounds, and which I thought was great. This is great. I'm on the right track. Then I came across I knew I needed to do something different. So I came across, I can't even remember, some plant-based guy. Anyway, I came across the plant-based world. And I thought, they're saying to cut out all the meats and the dairy and the processed sugars and the processed foods and stuff. And so I did a liver cleanse, some type of cleanse for 9 days. I did it for 9 days. And I went whole food, plant-based, completely plant-based, and I went really extreme for 9 days. And I lost about 9 pounds in those 9 days. I couldn't believe it. I was just like, you've got to be kidding. And I felt really good. So then I went down that whole rabbit hole of being in the plant-based world and being vegan, which I learned really soon. In fact, I went to Boston, Emmie. I went to Boston. My wife ran the Boston Marathon, and we went to Boston, and there was downtown, there was a food place that was completely vegan. I can't remember what it's called, but I know that we loved it. I'd go there and I'd get the ice cream and I would get the burgers and I would get the things. And when I came back, I gained some weight. I went, what? This doesn't make any sense. I've been losing some weight. Why am I gaining it back? And in fact, I went back and I started gaining my weight back, even though I was plant-based. And I did. I stopped all my meat, my dairy, what I considered processed sugars, like Kit Kats and my candy bars and all the junk that I would eat, the potato chips and stuff to that nature. But I was searching for replacements on those items, and I found them. I found the dark chocolate Reese's peanut butter cups, but they weren't Reese's. They were the dark chocolate vegan peanut butter cups. And I replaced those, and I found some. I would search for the chips and I would replace it, saying, oh, these are more healthy chips, because I'd go to Whole Foods or I'd go to Good Earth, and I would think of these chips I'd get the chips. And so I wanted to replace everything with, so I loved mashed potatoes. So I would always cook me chicken, mashed potatoes. And my mother was a great cook. We lived on a farm when I was young, and she cooked everything homemade, real butter, whole milk, right from the cow. The milk the cream would separate from the milk, and she would have that in gallon jars in the fridge. And all you do is go stir the milk the cream into the milk, and that's what you used. In fact, when we separated the milk, the cream out of the milk, we threw the milk away because it didn't have the cream in it. That's how I grew up. So she taught me to do some cooking that was just phenomenal. And on Sundays, I'd have this chicken with mashed potatoes, and it was so good. Gravy, it was so good. And so I got rid of all of that. So I couldn't understand why I was gaining weight again. Well, then I had a friend. My wife has this group of people that are on Marco Polo, and they always talk about plant-based eating and what they cook and so forth like that. And one of the ladies came up and she says, well, have you ever heard of Healthy Emmie? Of course, I Google a Healthy Emmie, and I get on and I'm like, I watched several YouTube of yours, and you have one that is like, why are you gaining weight eating plant-based? Or I can't remember exactly how it's titled, but something along those lines. So of course I click on it and I watch it. I'm going, oh, this is so what I'm doing. And so by this time, so this is 7 months ago when I came across there. So during the time that I lost weight, I had gained back to 190. I think it was 194 when I started with you. So I went from 202 down to, like, I don't know, I think it was like 185 that I went down to, and then went back up to 194. And I'm eating, in my eyes, plant-based. So then I knew that I had to do something a little different. So that's when I kind of got in touch with you. Not only did that, but again, my whole purpose of knowing that I needed to lose weight is I want to be around for my kids and my grandkids. We're avid skiers, snowboarders, actually. And I wanted to be around for them. And I knew that I had to change. I had to do something different. And when you do things on your own, if you're not understanding the whys or the how-tos or some of those things, it's hard. It takes a long time, maybe getting where you want to get. And people can lose weight, but the question is, do they keep it off? And I wasn't keeping mine off. I would lose. In fact, there's several times that I lost. Sometimes I'd lose 20 pounds, but of course it would come right back on. And I just didn't know the why. Why was this happening? I'm exercising like crazy. By this time, by the way, I had run a 50 miler. So I was training all these miles with the weight that I was at. And I wasn't losing just because I'd run 15, 20, 30 miles in a day. And I wasn't, I'd come home and I had lost 3 pounds, but 2 or 3 days later, it was, whether water weight or whatever, it was right back. And so anyway, some things just didn't quite make sense to me. So I knew I had to do something different. And then I got a hold of you and I said, okay, I'm going to try this again, because I need to know what is it that I'm doing in the plant-based world that I'm not seeing correctly, because there was a lot that I wasn't seeing correctly. And number one is I was being held accountable. So at that point, I'm to you. Do you want me to go on more? Is that okay? Or is there any questions?
That was beautiful. So what I really admired about you, Rusty, when we first spoke, was you had this grit and this determination, and you weren't willing to give up. You said, listen, I've made a lot of changes here. I started running. I can now run ultra marathons. I'm plant-based now. I'm not eating processed foods, but I'm still not getting to where I want to be. And that's why I'm here with you. Instead of throwing up my hands and saying, well, I guess this isn't going to work for me. You came to me because you realized there are blind spots that I can't see here. Can you help me? As opposed to, well, this just doesn't work for me. So I guess plant-based doesn't work for me, whatever, I'm just going to roll over and die. You didn't have that. You had such a willingness to learn and to make changes, and that's why you've been so successful.
Oh, absolutely. And yeah, I mean, I think that hit it right on the spot. I want to be healthy, and I want to, again, I think was it Gregor that says, I think his name, Dr. Gregor. Is it Dr. Gregor or McGregor? Gregor? Okay, Gregor. Dr. Gregor. So he said something along the lines that stuck with me. He said, we're all going to die. I just don't want it to be my fault, right? And I love that statement. So I really have that as my mantra of, I'm going to die someday. I just don't want it to be my fault. And that goes back to my brother. I don't want to be like, my brother's an awesome person, by the way, but I don't want to be in the health condition that he's at, knowing that I'm going to die sometime and it's my fault. I don't want it to be my fault. So again, now back to you, coming on with you, it, number one, opened my eyes to a lot of things. One is the way I eat. In fact, my favorite meal, my all-time favorite meal is still cut oats with a little bit of fruit in it and my broccoli. I love that. And I have it in the mornings. And I just love that. It's kind of some people think it's a weird thing, but I love that. That is now my all-time favorite. So I think I had that probably 98% of the last 7 months that we've been together. And my kids, in fact, it's really funny because I just have one son left at home. And he'll wake up in the morning and he'll come upstairs and he can smell the broccoli and he goes, oh man. And when he brings all his buddies over in the middle of the day and I've had some broccoli with some other food, they just know that I've had the broccoli out because you can smell it. So we've learned to throw the candles out and open the doors or open the windows and try to get that smell gone. But anyway, it's become my favorite. So I learned about plate sizing. I learned that there were foods that I was eating that I should not be eating. One is oils. So even though like it's easy to go find some sweet potato fries, right? Sweet potato fries that are in oil. There's a couple of restaurants that we know around here that are basically vegan restaurants, but everything's in oil. Everything's in oil. And that's what I was eating. I was eating stuff that was still in oil. And you think the concept to me about, in fact, I loved when you were, one of your videos that you showed, you put out, I think you had 2 tablespoons, I think it's 2 tablespoons oil. You had 2 potatoes, and then you had some other stuff. I can't remember right now exactly what was on there. And you were going around through the calorie count of each one of these items. And it just really dawned on me how much, when you really get down to brass taxes and find out what's in your meals through the day, yeah, I was learning that my meals were constituting a little more than just being plant-based. Yeah, they were plant-based, and that was good. It was helping me. I was more invigorated. In fact, when I went plant-based, I felt a complete difference. I would come home from work and I would sit down on the couch and I would just have those moments where I just wanted to go to sleep. I was so tired. I would sit down and I'd be like, I just got to take a small nap. When I went plant-based, that went away. that completely went away. So I knew there was some stuff with plant-based that was notable. When I got with you, I learned that even though I was eating plant-based, there was items that I was still taking into my body that was causing me to keep my weight on. One of them was oil. In fact, I would say that was the number one. The number two thing was bread. So we have a bread, we get it at Costco. It's Aspen Mills honey wheat bread, whole wheat bread. And it only has 3 ingredients: wheat, water, and one other ingredient. I can't remember what the other one is. Loved it. Oh, honey. It was honey, water, and wheat, flour. I would eat it like crazy. I mean, that I would have my toast. I would have my so my meals. I was saying, but I need something that's a little more. I can't just have. This is before I got with you. I've got to have more than just salad and more than just whatever. And when I would have nice cream. You know what nice cream is? Frozen bananas. You make it up, right? I would have that almost every night. So one of the things you and I talked about is when to close the kitchen down. That's the other thing that came in. So I would eat a lot of bread. I would have oils, and I would start to fill in between meals with my nice cream and oh boy, I would go get these chips that I would at Costco, and I would have my salsa, because in my brain I was thinking, well, these are just corn chips with salsa. I'm just having salsa, right? Well, I learned with you that, yeah, that can't quite be the case, because what you think your calorie count intake is really not the case. And as I went through and started to see what I was actually eating, I started to realize that all these things I was eating, and you said they have to be cut out. So I did. I cut it out. You know as well as I know. I cut it out. I was like, I am so tired. I've got to drop my weight. I had a goal weight of 155. And I thought, okay, I'm going to go with her for the first month, see how it works. And in that first month, I learned what not to do. The first thing is I cut out all my oils. Yeah, for some people, cutting out the meats and the milk, the processed foods per se, that wasn't hard for me because I'd already done that. But all of a sudden, you have people take oil out of their diet. I mean, it changes the way your food cooks. It changes the taste. All of a sudden, peppers. I would cook something without oil, and my pepper was way too strong, my black pepper. And I was like, oh, man. And we learned that black pepper becomes stronger without the oil. Lots of things become stronger without the oil. And so there's a lot to, growing in this. But when I cut all those things out, I started to see my weight start to drop. And I think the first week, I probably averaged, I don't know what I averaged. I ought to figure out what I averaged per month, but per week. But I think it was about 2 pounds a week. I think there was a couple of weeks that I stalled out. I would stall out, maybe went down 1 pound. Or I think there was a couple of weeks that I didn't. I didn't lose any weight for the 1 week, and then the next week I'd lose. And then I would stall out for a week, and then I'd lose again. And I remember I love the coaches, by the way. Your coaches are awesome. The nutritional coach and the mindset coach, they were wonderful. I probably didn't communicate back to them like I should have, but I took their words for what they told me, and I would do it. But anyway, as I changed the way I started to eat, there's 2 things. One, to cut out the oil. I cut out my breads completely. And my wife will make, she loves to make these oatmeal cookies, completely plant-based. She will just put some cacao nibs in them, but I would eat them up. When they came into play, I would eat them up like crazy. And I realized that when I started being accountable, I started to realize, oh, I'm eating this, and I'm eating this, and I'm eating this. And a lot of those things would happen after 7 o'clock. We'd go down to watch a football game or a basketball game, or we'd go watch a movie or whatever. And guess what came out? The popcorn. Yeah, it was. We didn't have any oil on this popcorn, but I would eat a lot of it, a lot of popcorn, and it was always at the end of the day. And so there was a lot of things that I was doing that I realized that I needed to cut out. So I did. That's what I did. And sure enough, the weight started to come off. And every week it'd be like 2 pounds. And pretty soon I went from, got down to 185 and 180. And I was excited when I got hit the 178 again. And I was like, I'm down to 178, and I'm down to 176. And our scale kind of works with, it will go 0.08, 0.04, 0.02. It never hit me straight on, ever. And so when I knew I hit 0.02, I was excited for the next week because I was like, okay, I think I'm going to drop again. And so it was really exciting to all of a sudden and then when I hit the 170s, I was really excited. Of course, your pants fit better, you're looking a little better, your confidence goes way up. And I just kept thinking, in fact, I remember I came to you with a question about eating because it dawned on me watching when I was eating that I was eating after 7 o'clock. Not that you say not to eat, because let me back up just a little bit. So not only did I learn to cut things out, you teach a very phenomenal idea of hunger cues. Eating when your hunger cues come up and your fullness cue. So when your fullness hits, you're done. And it's really easy to say, yeah, my fullness is done, but I still got a plate of this over here that I cannot go to waste. So I'm telling you, our fridge became full of leftovers. And we cook it, and I've never eaten leftovers in my life. I don't like I didn't like leftovers. I don't know if I necessarily like leftovers better than fresh food, but I have learned to eat leftovers, and my wife is tickled about that. But so I would listen to my hunger cues, I'd listen to my fullness cues, and I lived by that. And you stated this in that, of course, I like broccoli. So I'm going, okay, I like broccoli now. I eat broccoli a lot. If I felt a snack coming on, like in the middle of the day, and I'd be going by, I'd go fill up at Maverick. And of course, the Maverick sign hits me. So, some bells are going off, like, that Kit Kat's in there. And of course, I wouldn't go get it. But it's interesting how that would be. And I would ask myself this question, because this is what you asked us to ask. Would you have some broccoli right now? If you had some broccoli in front of you, would you cook that broccoli and eat it? And I'd be like, no, I won't. I wouldn't eat some broccoli right now. And I love broccoli. I'm not going to eat it. So then I knew you're not hungry. You just have something ring off in your brain saying you want something. And that's you're not really that hungry. And I've done that often. And then there will be times like, so I'm actually, my wife and I are getting ready to start training for another 50. We're going to do another 50 next year. And so I go running on trails all the time. I've shared some experiences with you on trail running, but funny stories. Anyway, I won't get into that. That's not the point of it. But you had shared with me, hey, make sure that your fuel to go on your runs. And there's two things that I learned on running trails is, and when I get to 8 miles or more, I feel like I need to be a little more fueled. So you invited me to always take maybe a couple of apples. Sometimes I would take an apple and then a banana. And that's usually the two things that I would take, either 2 apples or I take an apple and a banana. And I always eat those. Actually, I will actually practice eating on the run. So I usually eat one before the run, and then I'll probably eat one on the run, so that I get used to it. Because when you're running a 50, I'm telling you, you got to eat. You can't not eat. And so, but that would fuel me. And I would ask myself the same question before I'd go on these runs. Am I hungry? And there'd be times that I'd be like, no, I'm not hungry. Would I have some broccoli? No. And I have 2 apples that I'm going, okay, these are plant-based apples. I'm not hungry. And I wouldn't eat them. And there would be times that I would run my run because I simply wasn't hungry. And I would be just fine on my own. Now, when I got back into the van, I'd be like, am I hungry? Yes, I would have some broccoli right now. Then I'd eat my apples and my banana. So that was the number. So they're cutting things out, hit me. The hunger cues and the fullness cues were paramount still to this day, even though our time has come kind of to a place that not moving on with it after 7 months. I'm still eating the way you've taught me. And it's, anyway, so the hunger and fullness cues are paramount. That was huge. The third thing would be, is I would say, eating after 7. Now, this I have done for the most part, but there are still times that I will be hungry and I will ask the question, would I have some broccoli? Yeah, I would have some broccoli right now. And so I will have some fruit or some watermelon or some, something that just a snack to fill that hunger cue. And so there's been times that after 7 that I've done that, but for the most part, but it helped because it made me take away all the eating that I didn't need to do. So pretty soon I got down to 170. I went into the 160s. I was excited. I was super stoked about that. Went down to 165, went down to 164, 163, 162. And pretty soon I hit the 150 and 150. I mean, not 150, 159. I actually went from 160, like 161 to 159. And I was super excited about that. And then it started I thought it would start to slow down. And it really didn't slow down. Because I was being just consistently and steady with it, kept my, and I do think that there is a point that exercise. Oh, another thing, I learned that exercise doesn't necessarily mean you lose weight, right? I learned that big time. I understood now why I'd walk 8 miles and I wasn't losing weight, even though I'd walk 8 miles, or that I was running, or that I was preparing for a 50 miler and I would still gain a little bit of weight, is because I was eating not the way I should be eating. You think in your brain, I'm running 50 miles, I've got to fuel. You do have to fuel. I'm not stating that you don't have to fuel. You do have to fuel. But I was overfueling. And I think that's the biggest issue if you're eating plant-based that you can still have with weight, is you're still overfueling. And then the other the statement that you gave and help me out with this is that you're learning to fuel instead of doing it out of pleasure. And that's what I learned to do. I mean, I'd come home, my wife would have a dinner made. She'd be doing spaghetti with plant-based noodles, and I'd be like, no. We had our spaghetti sauce, and I would do a potato. I do a potato, and she goes, "You're just doing a potato under that?" Yep, that's what I'm doing. And I'd come home, and I'd get so used to. I love my potatoes, by the way, and I'd cut my potatoes up, and I just have salsa on my potato and my salad, and I do that. And when I got to that point, I realized I was just fueling. I got to a point that not overfueling, I was just simply fueling my body to fuel. And that felt good. That felt good and I'd have people coming in, my son would come in with his buddies and he'd pull out. We still have to, we have a hard time now. We don't buy any meats in our house. We don't have any milk products in our house. We don't have any of that. We haven't had that for a few years now, but we do have a few treats for my son and his buds when they come in. And they'll pull those out, and I don't even blink at them. It's not even a temptation now, because I like the way I feel right now. I think I told you this, that I have felt, so let me back up just a little bit more. I hit the 158, went down to 157, 156. I hit my 155, and I was a yahoo on my 155. I was so excited when I hit the 155 because that was my goal, right? That was my BMI, is the 155. Well, it didn't stop there. I hit the 154 and just excited. So, but the whole thing about this is I feel so good. I get complimented of the way that I look, that my body looks. In fact, I was at another dealership talking to some friends, and I was now down into the 170s, and they couldn't believe how well I looked. And I told them, I said, that's because I'm a healthy honey. And they were like, what? What are you talking about? And I said, oh yeah, I'm a healthy honey. And so I told them about your program, and I says, no, she calls all her people the healthy honey. I says, I'm a healthy honey. That was kind of funny. I just got a kick out of that because they just, it was taken back that I would call myself a healthy honey. But anyway, so it was kind of fun to see me drop that weight, and I feel better now, or as good as when I was a teenager. So, in my between 16 and 19 years old, I feel that good. I can't quite do things as responsive and quick as I did when that age, but dang, I'm running a 50 miler, and I recoup better. I recoup quicker. When I go on a run, I can go on an 8 and 10 mile run, and I feel good when I come back at 55. So I'm now 55, and when I run these 50s, there are people on these 50s that are older than me. Last year when I ran this 50, there was a lady that came through, and I think she was in her 70s, running this 50 miler, and I'm going, oh my gosh, if these people can do it, it can be, the body can do amazing things. So, but what's so neat about the plant-based side of things, and when you cut out all the stuff that you talk about cutting out, the recoup time is phenomenal. The recoup time, my wife just had an ACL replacement. We were up skiing, and we were getting off the lift. It was a stupid mistake, but I snowboard, she skis. And she was in the middle. My son's on one side, he snowboards. So the two snowboarders were on the outside. We were getting off the lift, and she got caught up in my snowboard. And because I'm just bigger than her, I twerked her knee, and it took her out of her ACL right there on getting off the ramp. And felt so bad. Anyway, she ended up having to have a replacement of the ACL. She's 100% plant-based, whole food plant-based, no vegan in this. She's whole food plant-based, and her recoup time was phenomenal. And 100% she relates it to the way she eats. So do I. I've learned the same things. I'll tell you another experience. I think your listeners will appreciate this. When I first learning about plant-based, I had gone off. I'd done this cleanse that I told you about, this 9-day cleanse. Well, after that, I said, I want to keep eating this way. So for the next 30 days, I was eating plant-based with some vegan stuff in it. So, but my body was feeling better. And of course, I didn't know, I was doing all this on my own, just trying to learn here and learn there. I was buying some books and buying this and trying some things. Anyway, we have Culver's here. Have you ever heard of Culver's?
Yeah.
Do you have it there in Boston?
I have it here, but I am familiar.
Okay, so you're aware of Culver's. Okay, there's going to be out there people that know of Culver's. I think it's based out of Wisconsin. Anyway, we have one here, and where I go run, I have to pass a Culver's on my way. And so I thought, I've been doing so good. I'm going to go get me a concrete. So I turned in, I went and got this. They call it a tall. And I got a vanilla concrete with banana, strawberry, and cashews in it. I thought, okay, that even though it's not plant-based because it's got the milk in it, I'm going to be better. I hadn't learned enough, but that's how my brain thought. And you know what? It's been 30 days. I'm going to do just fine. So I downed it. It tasted so good. I downed it. And I get to my run where I'm going to run. And I started to run. I ran 1 mile. And it hit me. I couldn't run. I was so affected. And ice cream, before I went plant-based, ice cream was my #1 favorite dessert. I love ice cream. I loved ice. That's why when I went plant-based, I ate an ice cream because it's my substitute for ice cream. But anyway, when I ate this, it made me so sick. I finished the 6 miles, but I had to walk the rest. I called my wife and I said, this is affecting me so bad. I don't ever want ice cream again. And I haven't. I've never had ice cream since that day. And so I realized, I said, why is it that I can eat something or have eaten all my life something, go off of it for 30 days, and it affects me so bad? I realized then that, milk product's not the best for me. And so anyway, it's been a wonderful moment to go from that point, losing weight, realizing that I'm not there yet, gaining it back, and then getting with you and learning. So if I could tell anybody why would I, number one, do plant-based food, whole food, plant-based? There's a difference. I'm not talking about vegan food. Oreos are vegan food. Vegan food has a lot of oils in it. There's lots of vegan food out there with oil in it. You can get online and you can look up vegan people who have vegan recipes. And this isn't anything against being vegan. But just because you're eating that type of food doesn't mean it's healthy for you. I learned that. So it needs to be whole food, plant-based eating. And that's a big difference. And that makes all the world a difference. I'll share one other thing, and that's with my son. And my son doesn't eat, he eats plant-based most of the time. But when we were eating plant-based, he came home one day and he said, this isn't that hard. He said something like, was talking to my wife, and she says, I'll give you a challenge to eat for a year whole food, plant-based, no processed foods. And he says, well, what would you give me for that if I did that? Now, he's in high school. And I'm like, there's no way he could do this for a year. You know how it is. His buddies are going to get pizza. There's not a chance in the world. And he goes, well, how much? And so I threw out an extraordinary amount of money. And he goes, I'll do it, for a kid. And you'll do it? Because I thought he would. I was like, there's just no way he's going to do this for me. And he said, I'll do it. And he did it. Wow. He did it for a full year. And he would come home and his buds would be eating pizza. It was so hard for him. But I told him, I said, look, now, I don't care if you eat just one gummy bear. I said, I don't care. If you eat one of those, and he's an honest kid. I said, that cuts it out. You don't get it. But anyway, he did. So we really promote it in our home. We promote it with our family. We promote it with my extended family. My brother, we're really prone to type 2 diabetes. I can gain weight off of just looking at the food. I mean, you hear that statement. You almost gain weight just looking at the food. Well, that's how I feel. I feel that if I know now through your program, I've learned things that I can eat. And I'm going through that process now. This is see things come up. But another thing that you taught that really helped me out is it's not, the day of, is important, but it's what you eat before that day and what you eat the day after. I've really taken that to heart too, because it would be really easy to say, I'm going to just have my nice cream at night, which nothing wrong with nice cream. But for me, it can be a killer. Not a killer. That's maybe the wrong words, but it's a trigger for me. There's some trigger foods that I like nice cream. I think it's great. But if I started to have it the day before and the day after of my day, pretty soon I'm having it the day before and the day after every day. And pretty soon I'm having it every single day. And that goes with breads. I still don't want to eat any breads. Could I have some breads? Yes. And do you talk about that? Yeah, there's some things that you can start recuperating back in, back into your system, you call it. For me, I don't want to. I know myself. I've learned who I am, and there's certain trigger foods for me that I'm like, no. If I eat that, pretty soon it's going to become my everyday, not just sometimes. Now there are times that I know it's going to happen. You go to a wedding, you go to Disney World, you go to wherever you're going, and there's something that you have that might have a little oil in it, or you have something that might have, by the way, we've learned the restaurants we like to go to that we actually ask them to, we have a Mexican restaurant that we go to that we call up and we ask them to have no oil in it. And they don't, they cook it, they steam it with water and it comes out. We'll have a burrito. There's a burrito that they have. It's a veggie burrito with no oil. Awesome. It's phenomenal. Love it. It has a lot of zucchini in it, carrots in it, a whole bunch of stuff in it, broccoli. And we love that. And so we've learned that we can go through life. We can go to the restaurants we like, that we've learned where we can go. And if we just visit with them a little bit, they will actually cook it the way we've asked them to cook it. Now, our kids are embarrassed because of this. They think, why are you asking them that? Don't ask them that. That's so embarrassing that they're going to cook yours different than anybody else's. And I'm like, look, all we're doing is asking. They can tell us no, and that's fine. We won't push it. We're not going to be pushy and at a place of saying you can't, why can't you cook it this way? But we're simply asking. And it's been actually surprising how many people, we know you eat this way. Okay, yeah. We have a Thai restaurant that does the same thing. They're awesome. They're out there. The other thing is we just got back from Disney World, and they have a plant-based item on almost every menu there. They have one plant-based item. So yes, is it necessarily the healthiest plant-based item? No. They have the Impossible Burger there. I think I think it's the Impossible Burger. That's not healthy, but it's plant-based. It's better than a beef burger. It's not healthy, but it is plant-based, and which in my mind is better than eating your meat, but that's just me. So it's been great. What a wonderful, wonderful journey that I've been through, if you call it a journey, the last 7 months. I've gotten down to the weight that I was looking to get down to. I feel wonderful. I'm more vibrant. I don't have that nappy nap situation in the afternoon unless I've been on a run and I want to come home but usually that doesn't even happen. You just feel better. Doesn't mean that I could still have some sicknesses or whatever come my way, but if I do, it's not because of my fault, right? And that's how I feel. If down the road I come up with some type of illness or whatnot, it's not my fault. There's been people in my family that's had COVID, Gratefully, I have not had COVID, even though I've been around them. I'm thankful for that. I kind of, and as I've been, I don't know, maybe I shouldn't even bring that up, but I have heard that plant-based eating, whole food plant-based eating has helped with that somewhat. I tend to believe that it's helped me. And so, yeah, so that's my story. You have any questions? I feel like I've been just talking like crazy.
Story. Yes, and I enjoyed every moment of it. I do have a question. May I ask?
Yeah.
So you are one of the healthiest men that I know, and many men that are struggling with their health, when we introduce plant-based, they struggle with the, well, men eat meat, real men eat meat, and thinking that it's a little bit weird to go plant-based. So what advice would you give to these men?
Well, and the advice that I would give, first of all, I grew up on a farm when I was a young kid. Again, you take a look at my mother. She ate with real butter, real milk. I remember me as a kid, we had slaughtered the cow. We did everything as a family. So I remember slaughtering the cow, putting it on our kitchen table. And I was in charge of grinding the hamburger. So as a little kid, I ground the hamburger. My dad was cutting up the meat. We were packaging it, and we put it in our freezer, our deep freezer. And so I ate that way. I grew up eating that way. I grew up teaching my family. When I first met my wife and we got married, I was all about the butter. So the reason I'm telling you this is the area that I came from. But it didn't help me. I wasn't feeling better. I wasn't losing the weight like I thought I would. Why is it that I could eat this? In fact, I would dare say, and I'm not a doctor, this is just simply from my experience, that if you're on meat, dairy, and the cheese, I love cheese. But if you're on that, if you're losing weight and in fit, it's because you've cut out all the other processed foods, right? I would bet in my mind that that's probably the biggest reason they've lost weight. If you suffer from weight loss, there's people that don't suffer from weight loss. We know that. But if you suffer from weight loss, because meat has a lot of fat in it, and what I've learned is to get rid of the fat, to go low fat, high carbs, whole food carbs, that is, and starches. Yeah, all of that I learned. So the only reason I changed is because of my own experience. I was walking all the time, I was exercising, I was running, and I still couldn't lose weight. Why am I still feeling? By the way, and I didn't mention this, I was pre-diabetic. And why am I pre-diabetic? And going through that whole experience that I've talked about, I was like, I've got to try something different. This isn't working. And I tuned everything out because I got hit by my family. I still get hit by my family about, no, meat's important. You know, where you get the protein. You hear that. I mean, that was the first thing that I was asked. Where are you getting your protein? You know, what about building muscle? What about being a man? You know, well, by simply trying it differently. And the way I felt, I didn't feel that way when I was eating the meat. I didn't feel that way when I was eating my cheese. I didn't feel that way when I was eating my eggs. I'd have 4 eggs every morning. I'd have 4 eggs in the morning. I would have, because that's what I thought you were supposed to do. I'm trying to eat healthy, you know, because that's what's been ingrained in our minds, is that's the way to eat. So that's what I would try to do. And it just didn't help. Long term, it didn't help. And when I went through this cleanse and started to just introduce the whole food plant-based and got rid of the milk, the meat, and which was hard. That was really hard. It's not easy, but it made a difference to me. And because of the experience of how I felt, made all the difference. So that it was my experience. Why? So if I could give advice, try it. go through a program. And the other thing that I advise on anybody looking at this, if somebody gets on YouTube and says, oh, let me look at this, and if it inspires you, I hope it does, but have somebody help you through this. I went through years of trying to do this and learning on my own, and I learned some things, but still other things just didn't compute to me until I actually took on a coach and somebody saying, hey, look, let's explain why this happens and why this works this way. And when that did, pieces fell in really quick when I went with you. I was like, oh, yeah, duh. I mean, as soon as I saw the 2 tablespoons and how many calories those 2 tablespoons, I'm going, yeah, when I have my vinaigrette dressing, quote, vinaigrette dressing, that's got oil in it, that just upped my calorie count on that. Oh, and that little bit of nuts. Oh, I love nuts. I used to love nuts. I still love nuts, but I don't have them often. I have my flaxseed. In fact, I try to stay away from nuts because they're high in fat. And I used to go to Costco and buy the honey roasted cashews. Mm-hmm. And I buy them, and I have them gone in 3 days, the whole jar. But it's healthy, you know. In my brain, I was thinking, oh, this is healthy. Well, I learned, it's whole food plant-based, but you can't be having a whole jar of nuts, cashews, especially when I went to Costa Rica and I looked at have you ever seen a cashew plant?
No, I haven't.
Okay, so the one fruit has 1 cashew on it.
Wow.
there's one cashew per flower. You would have to harvest so much of these plants to get cashews. I'm going, why? I mean, that's not plentiful. That's why cashews are, in my mind, I'm thinking that's why cashews are so much. It takes so much to plant them. But yeah, so have somebody help you and teach you the why and the how. Once you learn the why and the how, you can do it. Anybody can do it, and it changes lives. All of a sudden, we were up at Snowbird. This was a few years back. And this is another thing that hit me. And we were skiing. It was, I want to say it was April. It was the end of the year. And there was a gentleman up there that was 99 years old skiing. He had his family with him. He was 99. And I looked, and this is before I was whole food plant-based, and I'm like, you know what? I need a change. I want to be like that guy at 99 on the slopes or behind the boat, or I think it would be just fun at 70 years old that I'm still on a wakeboard skiing behind the boat or up on the hill snowboarding, telling my boys or my grandsons, you try to outlast me. Of course they'll be able to, but that's my intent, and it's because I've been taught the how and the why. So yeah, it's been good.
It's been more than good, Rusty. You've been an absolute pleasure to work with, and this was a beautiful interview. I think you'll inspire a lot of people.
Well, I hope so. And thanks to you, Emmie. You're a great, inspiring coach or instructor, or however you want to state that. So
Kate and Karina.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Oh, Kate and Karina, they were wonderful. And I thank you for reminding me, because I haven't forgotten them. In fact, Karina, she would say things and I would listen to it several times, and I would work on what she said to do. So let her know that I always listened to what she said. Mm-hmm. Sometimes I wouldn't state it back that I had listened, but I all the time. Mm-hmm. And when Kate came on, I would listen to her, and she'd go through my the food that I was eating for the week and explain some things. She's the one that said, "Hey, maybe you're putting a little too much fruit in your oatmeal, your silicate oats," and I cut that back. And again, there's some things that just taught me that you gotta not. And I never, by the way, I never counted calories. Mm-hmm. But yeah, thanks to them too. So yeah, loved it. It was a great experience.
I'm so grateful that Rusty was willing to do this interview with me because I have the blessed opportunity to work with clients from all walks of life, different genders, ages, races, different parts of the world, continents, cultures. And Rusty, being a 55-year-old male, is just one of the pockets that I'm very familiar with. I work with people from all walks of life. So thank you, Rusty, for being a voice for the male clients that I work with. If you're interested in working with me and my team in the Slim on Starch program to lose weight, please click the link in the down bar or just go to healthyyemmie.org so that you can apply. If you made it to the end of the video, comment energy, because Rusty has this contagious, glorious energy that lights me up every time I was on a call with him. Rusty, I'm going to miss you so much on our weekly calls. You just had the best stories for us, and like I said, your energy lit all of us up. Thank you, Rusty, for doing this interview, and I will see you on my next video. Mwah!